stand on this side.
Yeah. Mayor Michael Passer of City of New Orleans, everybody.
Good afternoon. It's been a tough day in the city. We've lost a small child to violence. Joining us here is Chief Pete Reichard and Fire Chief Tom Curcio. We've lost a second child in the city to violence. It is many weeks, this time a 4-year-old. Our community is hurting. I will let the chief tell you as much as we can about the circumstances at this point. I do want to express my condolences to the grieving family of this small child. And as we're a very small city, we really are just one big family, and so we all share in a loss like this. I do want to also express my deep appreciation to our first responders. It was a very difficult situation this morning. I have Fire Chief Curcio here. The police responded first. Obviously, our firefighters and medical personnel were there very quickly. We have the best response times in the state. Of course, everybody would have loved for a different outcome, but that wasn't to be. We've offered counseling to all of the first responders. Obviously, very difficult for everybody involved. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Reichard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At 6:27 hours this morning, our 9 Emergency Communications Center received a call of a woman in a parking lot in the area 242 Nautilus Drive striking a vehicle with a bat. Responding officers encountered the owner of the vehicle and then started to search the area for the female who was smashing the car with the bat. While they were doing that, the owner of the car pointed out the female to one of the officers. As the officer approached the suspect who was hitting the car with the bat, she made an utterance about "take me away," and he was asked simply, "Why do I need to take you away?" And she indicated that she harmed her son, and her son was in the apartment. Shortly after that, we gained a little more information, and she was secured in handcuffs and Mirandized. While that was going on, the initial officer who was talking to her made way to apartment 208 at 242 Nautilus Drive, entered the apartment, and he located a 4-year-old male who appeared to be in some type of medical distress. He immediately felt for a pulse, found no pulse, started CPR on him, and contacted the fire department for the fire department's response. They were there in no time at all while my officer was doing CPR on the child. Once we transported the child to the hospital staff diligently tried to work him back, but unfortunately they were not able to get him back. The officer at the scene found him to be cyanotic and turning gray and blue with a very low temperature in his body core, so we believed he was probably deceased for more than a period of time than just before we arrived. At that point, we transported the female down to the police department. Our detective unit arrived. State's Attorney's Inspector Red D'Amico, who's been working with my detectives and Captain Wright and the detectives all day long. During the course of this investigation, we have done several search warrants, one for the apartment itself so we can do a crime scene investigation. Presently, the Connecticut State Police Major Crime Squad Eastern Division is at the scene doing the interior crime scene processing right now. My detectives also secured a search and seizure warrant for the suspect's blood and DNA and fingernail scrapings. We've done part of that. She was transported to the local hospital where they're working on the DNA right now through blood. A few hours ago, we were secured an arrest warrant for Tiffany Farrauto, Farrauto. Date of birth is 11/1 87. It's Tiffany Ferrato, 11187 of 242 Nautilus Drive, apartment 208. The charges being murder and risk of injury to a minor. This warrant has a $1 million bond. As of this point, she has not been processed by us, so we do not have a booking photo release. That'll come out later tonight when Captain Wright sends out a formal press release. So we'll have a digital copy of the booking photo with that. At the present time, we are not releasing the name of the male juvenile victim. We've only been in contact with the maternal grandmother. We have not been able to reach the child's father or his parents at this point. If there's any questions I might be able to ask, I'm not sure what I can give you any more than that because we're still actively in this investigation and we're still processing crime scenes right now.
Can you say her charges one more time, President?
She's being charged with murder and risk of injury to a minor.
The car that she was meeting in the parking lot, this other person, what was kind of relation do they have to her?
She does not know who she is, never met her before.
In terms of the apartment, did he live with just her son? Were there other people in that apartment?
It appears to be a one-room studio efficiency apartment, and it looks like just the two live there together.
Is there any reason why you found a motive as to why she would have done this?
We have not been able to determine a motive at this point, just the facts of the crime that allowed us to secure a arrest warrant.
Cause of death?
Cause of death will be determined. Autopsy is scheduled for 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning by the Chief of State's Medical Examiner's Office.
It's been implied, sir, but have you confirmed that it is in fact her son?
We have confirmed it's her son. We have a ID on him. We're not releasing the name at this time.
Can you just talk about just the emotional toll? I mean, we can feel the emotion in this room. Just how are you all holding up?
It's not easy. I was there at the scene. I lived a short distance away, so I was at the crime scene while the child was being transported to the hospital. So I talked to the officers who first arrived at the scene. They were choked up by it. All of them there have children. A couple of them have children the same age. And it hits home. It hits you right in the guts. I then proceeded to the emergency room myself where several more of my officers and the entire emergency room staff were there. It hits home with them too, and they do these things every day. It's not easy. We work with the EAP partners, along with the fire department. We make resources available to all our staff members. And plus, we have a peer support group within the department where there's brother and sister officers that officers can talk to if they're having problems.
Has the suspect received a psych eval yet?
We have not processed this arrestee. We will do so later in the evening. She'll be presented tomorrow at the GA for the charge of murder and risk of injury to a minor. At that time, it will be determined by the judge what course of action will be taken.
Were there any previous calls to this residence related to this woman?
Not related to this apartment. Information is shown they moved in November of 2020. We've had calls there, but not related to this person. This person has one other entry in our system for a motor vehicle summons back in 2010. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Captain Wright will be sending in a formal press release later with the booking photo attached to it. Thank you very much.